What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with another episode of the Infinity Edge brought to you by the esportsdepartment.com. Did either of you find out if John said anything on. Okay, fine. Then never mind. I won't talk about that. So we had a lot of games finish up so far today. XL beat Schalke, which was not shocking. I thought it was a good Schalke spot. Was that game very close? Did you guys watch that? I think I watched the end of it.
I was solidly asleep for that one. There was
It was a little close and ended up low kill, so it didn't matter much today.
Yep.
Okay, I feel like Schalke was winning when I was watching it. I think I watched. Actually, I do think I saw the beginning of that one. Let's see.
They were winning for a little bit and then threw it.
Yeah, so that was 13-7. The drafts looked pretty straightforward. We had two late game AD carries and Jinx and Aphelios, which isn't too surprising coming from XL, and that kind of shows Schalke probably pivoted towards something like that. Broken Blade played Camille. Kryze played Jax, which I think Jax is a counterpick to Camille. Nuke Duck actually looked pretty good on Lucian too, from what I saw. Just more aggressive, and I think they even mentioned that on broadcast that you typically wouldn't see him on something like that. In the second game, Misfits beat Vitality 17-10. It was another Jinx versus Aphelios matchup. So if we continue to see this around the world, that Jinx and Aphelios are more popular, it means we're going into more of a late game meta, which is what you would expect in at the end of the season and during Worlds. Mad Lions against Astralis. This game was kind of out of control. Mad Lions won the match 15-21. So Astralis had more kills and was one of the key components for the winning lineups today on DraftKings. They almost got completely dethroned by G2 and Rogue. G2. By the way, Humanoid 29 and 8 on TF. My Discord was going ballistic on this guy, saying how bad he was. I mean, they overreact a lot, which is funny, but they were like, "Oh my god, this guy has 9 deaths and his team is winning, and the game's 25 or 30 minutes in, he's gonna hit 10 deaths. There should be an extra bonus for 10 deaths and winning." G2 beat SK. G2 beat SK Gaming. This was actually a really cool game. Jankos had a great Viego performance, which is a very good thing for their future upside. If Viego remains an important champion, they can always threaten throwing it into the jungle. We had Camille, Viego, LeBlanc, Kaisa, and Gragas against Urgot, Dr. Mundo, Syndra, Tristana, and Leona. Pretty close game, I think, for a while. It was 8-7 during a mid-game team fight. G2 was up a couple thousand gold at that point already, and then won a big team fight on the back of Jankos. And then
I didn't think it was that close, to be honest. It looked close in a score way, but if you've ever watched G2 play before, you knew that they were winning that game pretty solidly.
It felt like, okay, just give me one more minute and they will be winning this game by 3,000 gold, thank you.
Yeah.
And then in the last game, the Rogue dominating Fnatic. You heard it here yesterday that you should be all over that Rogue. Otoamne only 3-1-7, had 10 kill participation out of 27. That's brutal. Inspired, Larson, Hansama, and Trimby all had really good DraftKings performances. I had 3 or 4 Rogue G2 stacks that I talked about on stream yesterday, or not stream, in this podcast yesterday, and they all did really well, but none of them were the nuts. Because Astralis, I think, snuck in there because of some of those big performances. But I'm happy overall. I mean, I think it was a pretty good slate to think about, and a lot of what we said seemed to be relevant. And then I'll go through the LCS. Actually, let's just jump right into the LEC then, since we did the preview for that. And by the time we get to LCS, maybe the last game will be done.
All right. Moving into our Saturday slate, we have Schalke 04 3-11 versus Astralis 5-9. Two of the bottom tier teams. I think Schalke is pretty much dead as far as playoffs are concerned. No, they're not technically out yet, but it's looking grim for them. Astralis 5-9 looking to keep that 6th spot up against XL. So, Alan, we'll start with you. Schalke versus Astralis. Who do you like here?
gonna sound like a joke when I say it, but I I really think that tomorrow is like a slate where you could play exclusively Schalke lineups, and I wouldn't be that mad at you. There's probably too much goodwill towards Excel right now. I don't think that they're like, or sorry, Astralis right now. I don't think that they're very good. Generally speaking, I think that they have won a lot of games from losing gold positions, which usually suggests to me that you're not a great team. And Astralis is also giving up like a ton of kills in their losses. And so I think that like Schalke's ownership is gonna look like they're playing a worse team than they are. Like they're probably gonna end up in the 5 to 10% range would be my guess. And if I can get any team in the 5 to 10% range against Astralis, I want to like quadruple the field there. So to me, the start for me tomorrow is just going to be going through and building Schalke lineups with favorites that I like essentially, because I think it's as good as the spot you're going to get on Schalke. And like it, they definitely have lanes where they have the better player. Like Broken Blade is definitely better than White Knight. I think that Kyrie and Marcoon is like close-ish. I mean, I would probably prefer Marcoon, but it's not
Zanzara.
like Zanzara, excuse me. Yes,
But yes,
I'm
agreed.
still on the Excel stuff. Zanzara, thank you. But it's like close-ish. I think I would, probably prefer Zanzara, but not like
Yeah.
way prefer. And then mid lane I think is equally close. Like Nuclear and Magic Felix played against each other in EU Masters, played against each other in the LEC. They're pretty similar kind of players. And I think same thing for the bot lane. So like there's no reason Schalke can't win this game, and I think that a lot of people are going to approach this slate as if Schalke can't win this game.
All right, moving on to you, Michael. Seems like Alan's pretty heavy on Schalke, wants to triple the field. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, so they have it as a pick'em, and I I would need to check the like the contest CSV from yesterday to see what both of those teams' ownership was at.
I
But
can look for that.
yeah, in this situation, if you're right and everyone was high on Astralis and wasn't going to play Schalke, I would say yes, definitely play a lot of Schalke. And everything that you said is correct. I do think that Schalke is in a good spot tomorrow for DraftKings, but I'm not so sure they're going to be that low owned. Because I think a lot of the I think a lot of the reasons why you would want to play Schalke already has them on the radar of some of like the max entry guys. So if you're playing
Sure.
in like the $10 like the biggest GPP that they have with the most entries, I think there you're not going to be able to sneak them in as good. If you're playing like single entry stuff and smaller field tournaments, I think that's a really good spot for Schalke. Because even if you think about it as like the 50% for a pick'em and then divided by 10% chance at a top stack, then that's a good spot to be in tomorrow as well. So I think that both sides are pretty good. I guess you would be a little bit less happy with playing Astralis because of the fear that Schalke might like keep the game with low kills if they're losing, which
Yeah.
which that does seem to be the case most of the time with them. But maybe that's a better reason to play Astralis, because if you get one of those low percent outcomes in a big field GPP where you have Astralis, it would be worth it. So I do think both sides are definitely live, which is what you would expect from a pick'em. I think that I think the Schalke side is easier for people to convince themselves of. You think the Astralis side is easier to convince themselves?
Yeah, I mean just because of like records and stuff like that. Like I think a lot of people start there and decide who's going to win a game, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I can see it both ways. That's basically it.
Moving on to our second matchup for Saturday in the LEC, we have Vitality 5-9 versus XL, who are also 5-9. Michael, this one's going to have big implications for the playoffs. Who are you taking in this matchup?
Okay, so this is you're getting into scary territory with Vitality. Like, it's bad what's going on. And they tried saving it by putting Self-Made on Evelyn. If I'm Vitality in a game against Misfits, I would have played it more straightforward and tried to save something like the Evelyn as more of a surprise pick against XL. It depends on what that matchup looks like into the champion pools of these players, I guess. But if Selfmade is actively playing something like Evelyn again, then they're like a super, super, super good team. As long as they don't get completely blown out in a draft, which I don't really see that happening. So this is another spot where I would expect Aphelios and Jinx to be the 280 carries that we see. I think that Lucian will definitely be in this draft somewhere. And then it's going to come down to Kryze against Shigenda. So that's actually a good thing for Vitality. I think Shigenda is more likely to play something early game. Kryze is more likely to play a scaling champion in the late game, which gives Vitality more chances in the early game to build up a lead. And then Leader against Nuke Duck. I still think that they're both pretty bad. So I don't think there's a huge edge either way. That's a spot where it's purely draft. And then bot lane is going to be 2 late game champions. So whichever team drafts a better team composition to dive bot lane and get bot lane ahead is going to be that team that probably wins this game. I think it's more likely to be Vitality because Selfmade's expansive jungle pool, Leader's propensity for playing melee mid laners, and Shigenda being the more likely player to get onto an early game top laner. So I like Vitality more talent-wise as well. So everything's kind of pushing me in that direction. I'd rather play Vitality than Excel tomorrow.
All right, Alan, we'll throw it over to you. Vitality versus XL. Who are you taking in this matchup?
I think that what Pykel gave you was great analysis. I'm going to give you the bad analysis. Vitality's pretty good. XL's pretty bad. Like, I think Vitality has been pretty unlucky with some results so far, and it feels like they play a good team every week. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like they must have a somewhat easy schedule remaining. Maybe one of you guys knows the answer to that, but I just think that Vitality's probably going to go on a little run here. I think they're much, much better than Excel. I don't think that this game is like my favorite from a DraftKings perspective. Like, I think the upside of the one we just talked about is probably a little bit higher here, but I'm fine with like sticking Vitality in lineups with Schalke. Probably just with Schalke. I'm all in on the Schalke apparently. they're my German brothers. Auf geht's meine deutsche Brüder.
Oh God, what is happening right now? Are we gonna get flagged for sensitive content on YouTube now?
Is speaking German sensitive?
Yes, yes. So their remaining schedule is XL, Rogue, Schalke, Astralis.
Okay.
So
yeah, they have
can
one
go 3-1.
good team left. Yeah. So I that's what I felt like it was. So I looked it up. Astralis obviously played G2 today, so the ownership is going to be pretty low on them. But like the highest owned player for Schalke against Excel, who I would think most people think is a near coin flip anyway, it was like 7%. So I do think that Schalke will still be pretty low owned tomorrow.
All right. Moving on to our next game on the slate, we have Rogue 11-3 with sole position of first place versus Mad Lions 9-5. Alan, 2 of our top teams here likely to make it to the end of playoff, but who's winning this one to round out the regular season?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about what I think it takes to be a good pro at League of Legends. It takes 2 things. It takes a good brain, number 1.
Oh yeah, good brain.
And good hands, number 2,
yeah,
right?
Hands. Yep.
There's been a lot of players in the past who have had one of the things, and having both things is like, the nuts, right? Like, that's like the fakers of the world. Like, I can think of High. He's like a good brain, bad hands player, right? All of Mad Lions is good hands, bad brains players. I can't do it with this team anymore. Rogue is the opposite. They have mostly good brains and like above average hands. So I'm all in on Rogue in this spot. I know that like if people are going to be really high on Rogue coming off of a Fnatic win. That game I think was actually a little bit closer than the score looked. But it was telling to me about how they would play against Mad Lions, because Fnatic does all of the things that Mad Lions does, just better, and smarter. And so I'm pretty confident that Rogue's gonna win this game, and I would rather just play the Rogue side because that's who I believe is gonna win the game. I think Mad Lions is probably the better like game theory side. They're a talented team. It's probably as low as you're going to get people on them against the best team in the league, but I don't really care. I think Rogue's going to win, and I want to play Rogue. So I'll play Rogue with the old Null Fear again.
Wow. Well, it seems like Alan favors brains over the hands. Michael, do you share the same sentiment? Will Rogue be beating Mad Lions this one?
Well, I think in terms of brains versus hands, people who know me in real life would be shocked that I'm about to say this, but I really do think that, and people who like I've coached and stuff like that, hands are more important. I think that they're a lot more important too. Like I think from a theory perspective, like I'm more of a theory player than a hands player myself, and I think that's what makes me appreciate the handsness of some people, where like they just have that ability because you always feel like you could mold them into something, or if they get a good early game, like their just ceiling seems to be higher, because once you get the brain team into the deep waters, it's like, you know, can they execute, like even though their brains operate at a very high level and they have a very good understanding of the game, is that going to be the difference in the team fight itself? It'll help you get into a good team fight, but once you're in the middle of that fight, what are you able to accomplish? I do think that Rogue has good enough hands specifically to compete with a team like Mad Lions. I'm not saying that there's like one team is brains and one team is only hands.
Yeah,
but,
inspired hands work good.
Yes.
And his brain.
Big hand, good hands. How do you say that in German? There's got to be a word for that, right? Good, big, good hands.
Große gute Handen.
Is it GROSSE? Or is it GROS?
GRO, the double S that looks like a B. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't there a soccer player with that name? With his last name?
Who knows?
What a funny name for a soccer player is Grossa, with it means fucking good big hands. Wild.
Big, yeah.
Yeah, big
it means
hands.
Big. Yeah.
Well, that's a good side note.
The Rogue versus Mad Lions. Who do you got here?
Yeah. So earlier this season, Rogue beat Mad Lions, and I think that was at a point. I wish I had the money line from that game. Do we know what week that was? I can find it. Mad. Maybe I can't find it. Mad versus Rogue. That was week 4. It's
gotta be like Mad Lions plus 150, right?
Yeah, it was week 4, day 2. I just want to get the scoreboard up. Because I want to be on Mad Lions here. They had a bad game against Astralis that they still won. So, in my opinion, the more important part is the fact that they still won. Like, pretty impressive. Rogue beat Mad Lions 21-10. So everyone will want to play Rogue. They'll see this, they'll be like, oh, you know, when Rogue plays up against Mad Lions, G2, Fnatic, they get these big kill score performances when they win because the other team is going to continue to fight them. That's true. And it's a good reason to play Rogue. I think you should probably play both sides in this match because both sides have that high upside. But the thing that's pulling me more to Mad Lions is that the bad performance today still won. Rogue had a good performance against Fnatic, which is a good win for them. I think that Rogue is the better team than Fnatic, and it should have been thought of that way going into it. But just those two things happening at the same time, I think it creates a small edge for playing Mad Lions. Rogue was minus 128 against Fnatic, so just think about how close that game was supposed to be. or the chance of each team winning. And then tomorrow in this matchup, it's Rogue minus 164 to Mad Lions plus 125. It should be the same kind of line as Rogue against Fnatic. So I think that kind of speaks to it as well, where the public perception of Fnatic is higher than Mad Lions, which maybe that's accurate. It's just there is a big jump there. So I think it's a better DraftKings spot it's a better leverage spot for Mad Lions. In terms of a DraftKings spot, this is one of the better DraftKings spots for Rogue because their ceiling is basically forced out of them by a team like Mad Lions. But it really comes down to what kind of rosters can you build, what kind of lineups can you build with both of these teams, and would you rather go for Rogue in a high upside spot for DraftKings, one of their better opportunities to play them? Or do you want to go for the lower percent outcome with Mad Lions that might even be lower owned than it should be? So I think it's a really good spot for Mad Lions, and I'm typically contrarian going into these types of matchups. So that's kind of I feel like that's the play that I have to make tomorrow. So I'm on Mad.
Nice. All right, moving on to our fourth match for Saturday. We have SK 4-10 versus Fnatic 10-4. There probably isn't much here to look at unless you want SK at a very low ownership, and when Fnatic lose, as we saw from Friday, they lose very hard.
Yeah.
So I'll throw it over to you, Michael. What are you doing with this matchup?
Fnatic. I'm not playing SK. That's it.
Alan? Your
Agreed.
thoughts?
Yeah. Fnatic and you're not gonna believe this, but Schalke, no fear.
Big Schalke day tomorrow from Alan. Alright, nice, short and sweet, I like it. Moving on to our last match of the day for Saturday. To round out the second to last week of the LEC, we have Misfits 10-4, locking up at least the playoff spot versus G2 8-6. Alan, will you be picking G2 looking back in form, or are you going with the Misfit boys of the Infinity Edge?
I think it's reasonable to play both sides. Obviously, at Misfits at a much lower clip, but like I expect G2 to probably win this game like 70% of the time. G2 looks a lot like themselves again all of the sudden. Jankos has found some champions, seems to be motivated again. He even like mentioned in the interview that like maybe he wasn't feeling as like lustful for League of Legends as he had been in the past and now is. Caps with like the LeBlanc look and pairing that with Jankos on like a Viego or a Lee Sin feels basically unbeatable. So I'm back on like G2's probably going to win Europe again and be one of the best teams in the world by the time the World Championship comes around. So that makes it an easy spot to like G2 in. But I also think that like is it within the realm of outcomes even with like G2 playing their best League of Legends that they could lose to Misfits on a good Misfits day? Yeah, I think so. So like if you were like I'm playing 10 lineups from this match, I'd say do 8 G2 and 2 Misfits or something like that. But it's definitely hard to really believe in the Misfits boys on this one. I think we got the old G2 back.
All right, moving over to you, Michael, for our last game of the LEC. Misfits 10-4, G2 8-6. What are you doing with this matchup?
Sure. So, I'm upset that this is why I can never get away from G2, because of what Alan was saying. It's like all it takes is them finding one or two champions that fit the meta and their playstyle at the same time, and then they become one of the best teams in the West, really, just overall, and then become competitive with Chinese and Korean teams. So I'm just curious, Alan, going into, let's say, last week, where would you have ranked G2? Like, definitely in the top 4, but like, where in the top 4 would you have had them? Or maybe 2 weeks ago. At your low point.
Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, probably 4th. Like, I
Yeah.
probably liked Mad Lions, Rogue, and Fnatic all better than them at one point in the season.
Yeah, that's why it's so important for me to like stick to talent stuff, because when I think that a team is more talented, I know that all it takes is literally one good game. Not even in a professional match. It takes one good game of solo queue or one good scrim where they're like, "Oh shit, this champion's fucking broken. I'm good at this champion. We're gonna destroy everyone." That's all it takes. Last season I played mid Zyra for like a weekend, like a 4-day period where I just hardcore grinded League, and I went from like plat 3 or plat 4 to Diamond 3 and into my promos for Diamond 2. That's what happens in League of Legends. You get on these insane streaks when you just figure out the meta and you understand what champions are very popular and where you fit within the grand scheme of things. So I'm glad that you've returned to the Church of G2, and it's just like you are more like, your opinion of G2 swings more similar to like what the public opinion of G2 does, because they're so frustrating. Like, they're so frustrating to support. So I totally understand why it happens. The thing with Misfits is this is a great spot for Misfits. The only teams that they've lost to this year are G2, or in the split, are G2, Rogue, and Astralis. The Astralis game you can throw out the window. They beat they beat G2. Wait.
They definitely beat
they beat
Fnatic.
G2.
They beat Fnatic in the first game of the split.
They beat G2 8-9. So that was a really low scoring game. They lost to Mad Lions in their only match that they've played against Mad Lions. And Mad Lions is more similar to G2. So, and they lost their 2 games to Rogue, because Rogue's just a very good team. So I think this is a good spot for Misfits. It's if people go back and look at that previous game where it was 8-9, that wasn't even real G2. So it was like G2 trying to find themselves, and then Misfits being on somewhat of a hot streak. And then they just kind of beat them in a low-paced game. I really don't think that's going to happen again. I think that if Misfits wins this game, it'll be a high-scoring match. So I want combinations of Misfits. I want to play Misfits with other underdogs that I like, specifically Mad Lions. So if you can get Misfits and Mad together in a bunch of different combinations, that seems really cool to me. I will want to play G2 somewhat, because I don't like getting pushed completely off of my positions that I like. Like, I like playing G2, but now we're getting to that point where is G2's ownership just going to be like over 20% every single game, which is really tough, like a tough pill to swallow for me. And then the last thing I'd say is, when like the public sentiment of a team can swing so much, that's why you have to take stands in DraftKings. So I guess the 2 things that I would try to point out for people to learn from, it's that you need to have your priors, like literally it's called priors, where you have an opinion on all these teams, and you need to try to stick to them as much as possible. And then outside of that, if you have game theory reasons for playing a team more or less, then fine, you can move off of those priors, or just disregard them for certain lineups, and pretend like you don't think that, which I do all the time. I pretend like I think stuff all the time. And it helps you a lot from a game theory perspective when you're crafting lineups. So that's really all I wanted to get off my chest for that one. I think that both teams are obviously in play. I think it's a really good spot for Misfits, and all the reasons that Alan gave are why they're going to be too low owned tomorrow.
All right.
See that for sure. I'm looking at like a Rogue mid captain that you could probably do the other way as well. Maybe a Kabi captain as well with Misfits and Rogue that I think looks pretty good to me.
Sure.
All right. Are you guys ready to move on to the greatest region in the world, the LCS?
That yes, please. Let's just talk about that CLG game for a second. They were
crazy how the CLG games always come up as a topic of discussion, one way or the other.
They were on the bad side of one of the worst throws I've ever seen, and then their very next game, they're on the good side of another just incredible throw. I don't even know what to say about that at this point. It's just the way it works, I suppose, in the LCS.
It's Dog Friday.
Yeah, there was a lot of Yippee-I-O, wasn't there?
Oh wait, yeah. So how did your Yippee-I-O calls go so far?
Well,
Is
let's
that
see.
that was for this slate or was that for the LEC slate?
That was LCS. Here we go. C9 dub. EG dub.
Yippee-yi-yo.
Uh, what was the third game? I forgot already.
The third game was
It's been
Team Liquid
C9,
against
EG, and
FlyQuest.
CLG.
Oh yeah, I said all the dogs except Team Liquid. Team Liquid dub. CLG dub. What do we got in the Dignitas Immortals game?
It's
Well,
starting
Dignitas
now.
just got first blood a minute into the game.
Dignitas dub.
Oh wait,
Alright,
did we see
alright,
a first
so
blood
let's-
occurred on the stage?
I don't believe so. I wasn't watching draft.
Ah,
there was
damn
a
it.
lot of face punches. Okay, alright, let's get into the LCS. Now
But
that
to
I
get
have
into-
victory lapped.
Now to get into the LCS for Saturday, our first game, TSM Golden Guardians. We'll throw it over to you, Alan, on this one first. Who are you liking in this matchup? I assume it's TSM after what you've seen after Golden Guardians lost to CLG today.
Yep, you got it. I think like is probably pretty strong for TSM Golden Guardians matchup. I think this game probably plays at TSM's pace, which we've seen over and over. Basically, sorry as I burp through everything I say here.
It's kind of hot.
I think we've seen that TSM's pace is very slow. Basically every game they end up in ends up really slow, unless like the team is CLG or something like that, who just seem to like prolong games and end up dying a shit ton. So I'm not really interested in either side in this one. I think TSM wins relatively easily, but I don't want to play them on any sort of DFS site that I may be allowed to play on tomorrow.
May or may not be allowed to play on.
FanDuel's top 100 player does not want anything of Golden Guardians.
After today, I might be top 99. It's it's going well for me over on the FanDuel.com.
Nice.
Moving on over to Michael, TSM versus Golden Guardians. What do you like in this matchup?
So TSM is gonna buy Danny. I think that even when he's playing Ziggs poorly, he helps them win. So that's gonna happen for sure now. Thank you, TSM. It was a bad game for them. Their drafts are not always. They're pretty horrible in general. This one wasn't that bad. This was an execution problem from TSM, which is funny because they are always in super close matches. Like, they're just your classic play to the level of the competition team. I don't trust them ever. I never trust them to win a game. So I'm very happy that I picked against them yesterday. The fact that Golden Guardians just lost to CLG, I mean, that's insane. I don't think that people, even with that happening, I don't think that people will want to play TSM. And I think people are more likely to give Golden Guardians the benefit of the doubt and just be like, that was a fluke. You know, they're actually playing pretty well, and then just run it back. So, as plus 222 dogs, they should be around 6% owned, Golden Guardians. Do you think that Golden Guardians will be over under 6%?
Sounds just right, to be honest.
Yeah, that does sound about right.
I think that they will be. I think that they will be more owned than that. I think they'll be closer to 10 to 12%. And I think that so what do you guys think about this? Do you think that their implied win rate divided by 5 is more indicative of their overall ownership or their top stack? I guess it's probably closer to their top stack. So, because like you have the larger ownership picture of like the primary stacks and secondary stacks, but you want them in their primary stacks when they're in that 6% top stack outcome.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. But
today,
still, we think
Ablaze
it's...
Olive.
What?
Ablaze Olive was, sorry about the doorbell. Ablaze
Didn't hear
Olive
that.
was drafted at 27% in the main GPP. That
Exactly.
is
They will be
No.
they will be owned very highly again. I think it's going to be tough for people to get completely off of Golden Guardians. I think a lot of the max entry people will just run them out again, which is fine. I don't really have a problem with that. I think they're definitely live against TSM. I'm not sure they really have as many like upper echelon performances against a team like TSM, who just has the shittiest games to watch. Not shittiest games to watch. They're the shittiest games to watch when you bet money on them on DraftKings. Because it's just like, you know that your lineup is in bad shape when you get 15 minutes into a game. It's like 6-2. They're on a Rift Herald that no one should be fighting, and yet everyone's fighting it. It's just, they just make me feel sick, like, almost all the time in these games. Is me feeling sick while having to play them all the time? Is that a good reason to play them? Where it's like, well, if I feel like shit playing them, then everybody must feel like shit playing them, and if everyone feels like shit playing them, then they'll probably be under-owned. What was TSM owned? What was TSM owned today?
Expanding the brains. Yeah, so the top owned player for TSM today was Power of Evil in the captain slot at 11.68%, and then you had to get down to Spica 8%, which is I mean that's God. Low.
And that was against Evil Geniuses. That should be a good spot for DraftKings purposes for them.
Yeah, the reason I think that you're wrong about Golden Guardians being owned highly tomorrow is like I think that the general public is very on to the concept that playing against TSM is like one of the worst things that you can do DraftKings wise.
Okay. If that's the case, then I want both sides. Just give me both sides as primary stacks, and if they burn me, then like I would keep it low exposure. Like it's going to be really tough to use these teams as a secondary stack tomorrow. That's going to suck. Like, that doesn't feel good ever. Because they even match up in an annoying way. Like Huni and Licorice, you feel like Licorice is probably going to win the laning phase, but who knows? Spica's the better jungler. Power of Evil and Ablaze Olive both have interesting champion pools and can like pull out some random champion that you didn't really expect. And then, I don't know how this is possible, but Stixay has had a better split than Lost. I still think Sword Art is better than Chime, but really tough game. And how much does this game matter for standings? TSM is like locked into the playoffs, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so TSM, yeah, they're not really in fear of losing anything.
TSM's in like second place, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, TSM's in second. Top 8 make it, so it's really hard not to make playoffs unless your name is Golden Guardians, CLG, or FlyQuest. So.
Right. CLG kept it alive today, right?
They most certainly did.
Yeah.
That win meant. Yeah.
So, I guess... Man. Just so shitty.
Play no one. Don't play this game.
I feel like I have to. I feel like this is where, like, from an ownership perspective, you kind of have to get some of these lineups in there. But it's going to feel bad. Obviously, it's going to feel very bad.
People of the world, listen to me. You don't have to.
All right, moving on to our second game of the slate, we have the Immortals versus Evil Geniuses. Immortals right now, after giving up First Blood to Dignitas, are now in a game pause, so we're not sure what's going on there, because I have it muted. But Immortals versus EG, we'll start with you, Michael, on this one. Is it EG all the way?
Yes. I don't have much interest playing Immortals in general. At plus 140, do you think that Immortals will be over under 8%?
Under.
Right. Yeah. I also kind of think under. Even though EG is a good team to be against. Can you guys hear my child here?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you holding Otto right now? Did I miss that? Did you walk in with him?
I picked up the baby a moment ago.
Oh, nice. Nice.
He woke.
Is this like have you shown him on camera yet? You don't have to if that's like a thing that you don't want to do. I know a lot of parents are like, I'm not putting my baby in front of a camera.
Baby. Here's his hand.
Nice. Good enough for me. All right.
Yeah.
So I think Immortals, if you're going to play them, you really have to play them closer to 15%. Did he just puke on you? Oh
Sure
yeah,
did.
there you go. So that's the you know how on like a lot of those fantasy football podcasts they have Jerry, that dog Jerry that barks, Adam Levitan's dog.
Mm-hmm.
Auto puking on you is the equivalent of Jerry barking during a take. So Immortals will win someone a GPP tomorrow. That's my take. I like Evil Geniuses a lot more. I love Danny. Danny's the future of North American League of Legends. But this is Otto's first pick. If Otto is 1-0, it's either he's going to be 1-0 or 0-1 tomorrow. So it's tough times to be an infant on the Infinity Edge podcast.
Or I'll throw it to this side. Did hearing the word Immortals just make Otto throw up to the point where he doesn't want Immortal?
Spin zone. I like it.
I'm going with that take. I like Evil Geniuses. I'm going to deal with this spit up situation
Go ahead.
as we move into.
We'll move on. Third game
that's gross, aka big hands. Huh? Tying it all in. The grossest podcast around.
Oh man, this was a great one. Moving on to third game of the slate, I think. Lost count. Fly versus D9.
Actually, wait, before we move on.
Yeah.
At plus 185, do we think that Evil Geniuses will be at, where should they be? 12%? You think over under 12%?
I believe they'll be over 12%. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that that's good against Immortals?
Except for the jungler, because they're not gonna know who the hell they're starting. So.
Yeah. Okay, that was my only question.
All right. Moving on to our third game of the slate, it's FlyQuest versus C9. Cloud9 taking out 100 Thieves today, while FlyQuest fell to Team Liquid. I assume this is a C9 spot, but maybe Michael has a different opinion.
Yep. It's a C9 spot. Minus 250. Over under 13.4%. They're gonna be like 25% owned.
Yeah, I assume after today's matchup where they're looking to be optimal, people are going to be on the C9 train for tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess they're it really is a top stack percentage. Not really, because a lot of the times the number's like shockingly close, even when you're just thinking about it from a total ownership perspective. Because I think the way that it works is like the everyone's favorite team is closest to like 25 to 30%, and then everything else kind of fills in and fits in nicely to like close to their top stack percentage. Just an observation I've made.
All right. Anything else
C9.
you have on the
I'm not playing FlyQuest.
Just C9. C9 all the way, guys. Moving on to our fourth matchup, we got Team Liquid versus Dignitas. Another one I can pretty much read Pikel's brain on this one. He's going to be all in on TL because fuck Dignitas for screwing Darda.
I'm going to be on TL because Dignitas is gross. Back to you.
Well played.
Looks like Alan has returned. Do you have any thoughts on Fly C9?
Yeah, C9, obviously. I think that it's also like a really great. Just playing against FlyQuest in general seems to be the nuts, even if you're Team Liquid, which is pretty wild. Also, as you were talking about that Evil Geniuses jungler situation, I realized that today I played Sven Skaren.
Same.
In my FanDuel lineups, which is just unbelievable. I was so happy. I had a 4-stack TL, Evil Geniuses, and Cloud9 in the team, and that is just absolutely dead because of Sven Skaren. Anyway, the other matchup we were talking about is TL Dignitas. Yeah, I mean it's Team Liquid. I can't make any type of argument for Dignitas. I do think it's like after TL was really good today against FlyQuest, it's probably a much worse spot against Dignitas. I don't think Dignitas is that level of bloodiness like FlyQuest is, and so I would probably just look at TL in the secondary stack.
Yeah,
Alright.
I think that's a good point to make. I don't really want to play Team Liquid at all tomorrow. Team slot's fine. Secondary stack if you want to get unique potentially or something. Or, I mean, but I think staying away from them as a primary stack is probably a good call.
All right, moving on to our fifth and final game to wrap up the LCS on Saturday. It looked like a day of the favorites, really. Looking at all this once again, 100 Thieves versus CLG. Will CLG have any more magic up against the 100 Thieves? Alan, we'll start with you on this.
Famous last words in the LCS. Looks like a day of the favorites. That's gonna be the yippee-i-os of all time. Actually, no, because today is Dignitas gonna win this game? What's going on there?
It's still paused. Oh, they initiated a chrono break, is what I'm seeing on the screen.
Oh boy.
Great, wonderful.
So
That's
LCS
awesome.
won't get done till like 10:30 now.
Happy to hear it.
Yay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's a pretty strong favorites spot. 100 Thieves coming off of a loss doesn't feel like they like get surprised too much by a CLG thing. I think it's like reasonable to put a CLG lineup out there because today they kept going with like a cheesy look with the Kha'Zix pick. Although they didn't really do what you would expect them to do with Kha'Zix Callista. Like, they basically just waited for Golden Guardians to throw the game, which is not typically how Kha'Zix and Callista are supposed to play the game, I don't think. But, you know, it worked out for them today. So, I think it's an okay-ish spot to, like, put, you know, 1 to 2 CLG lineups out there if you're playing a large amount of lineups. 100 Thieves, they're going to be insanely expensive. Are they the most expensive team on the slate?
No.
No. Okay. So
They're
that's
like 4th and 5th in most spots. They're 2nd in jungle. Or no, the 80 carry is number 1. They're
Okay.
spread out. They're spread out. You can get them in there.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that makes me like them less as well. They don't typically play like really bloody games against bad teams, and CLG is definitely that. And so I would probably look elsewhere for my favorites. Like, I definitely like Cloud9 more than them. I definitely like Evil Geniuses more than them. I may even like Team Liquid more than them. So it's probably just a game that I'd limit exposure to.
All right, Michael, finish us out. 100 Thieves versus CLG. What are you doing with the matchup?
I agree with the that Kha'Zix Callista take. I do think Kha'Zix is a really good champion right now as a counter pick, because there are a lot of champions. There are a lot of
Mobile.
teams. There are a lot of teams in League of Legends right now that are drafting hyper mobile, hyper fragile team compositions. So if you can get Kha'Zix into a game where the other jungler is not going to be creating a lot of pressure in the early game, or if you're up against a team that doesn't take the early game very aggressive approach to the early game, then Kha'Zix is going to be able to farm up pretty good. Because that's generally what you need to happen in a Kha'Zix game, is you need a ton of CC from your laners so that you can go gank their lanes and actually have something happen, or you need it to be like a super low pace early game so you can just farm and hit level 6 and then just be more powerful. So against a team like 100 Thieves, I could see that being an okay spot for them. The fact that we're moving towards like Aphelios and Jinx lineups, like it's more volatile. Like, it's very good and very bad. Like, if you're against Aphelios Thresh and you dive in and you get hit by like a hook or something, then you're gonna look like a jackass. Or you can get one shot by Aphelios, really. But it's a good situation to put yourself in if you're the underdog team, because you have more chances to win, I think. So I like the fact they draft. It's funny that CLG does this, where they have a lot of like interesting ideas that they bring into the drafting phase, which I really appreciate. But I don't know if that's enough to make me want to play them against 100 Thieves. The only way that you can do it is if you want to take a shot at their low ownership So tomorrow they are plus 300, 5%. Do we think they're gonna? They're probably gonna be 5%, right around that. Maybe lower against 100 Thieves. What were they today? Do you have that in front of you again?
Yeah. So the top CLG player was why can't I find it? Okay, so Wild Turtle was actually 17%. So
Okay.
that's yeah, that is a decent chunk. Which
Against
is
Golden
that
Guardians,
is
though.
that the Infinity Edge bump?
No, I don't think.
Has to
I
be.
don't think it is. I
Has
think
to
that
be.
was the
People are
Golden Guardian
riding and
spot.
dying with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's definitely the Infinity Edge bump right there. So yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. So I mean, if you want to play them at 5%, I could be okay with that. Get a lot of primary stacks. If they beat 100 Thieves, I mean, I would think it has to be a bloody game.
All right. I think I've got the strategy for LCS tomorrow. Just go to the esports department optimizer, click on C9 Evil Geniuses, take the top projected lineup there, put that in single entry contest. Then go over to the GPP. You take the ones that look less owned, like I don't know. It's not going to be a great looking lineup, I'm sure. It's probably like a top captain, and throw that in, call it a day.
Short and sweet. Do any of you guys have anything else you'd like to say about the slates?
Not really.
Schalke.
Gross.
No? Everything's good?
Schalke.
Schalke.
No fear.
So if it's a
I
day
like
of...
like the part of this podcast where Michael called speaking German a TOS violation.
I didn't say it was a TOS
Just-
violation. I said it was potentially a TOS violation.
I think it's because he doesn't know what you're saying, and then he got really scared there for a second.
Yeah, I
Hey.
said my German
Scary-
brothers.
Scary language. Just saying.
It is.
You know,
It is that for sure.
It's the equivalent
I mean,
of Klingon.
anything that can make the last name Heffelfinger is probably is a pretty strange language.
it could be a Winter Soldier situation where Alan utters a few phrases and Michael just goes berserk.
There you go.
All right, I guess I'll curse it here for Saturday. It's a day of the favorites.
Ooh.
How many dogs are winning tomorrow?
Ooh, I gotta look at the LEC because the LCS felt like zero
Oh,
to me.
we'll just worry about the LCS.
Oh,
Gotta be zero.
the other thing I was going to say about the underdogs today. I mean, Cloud9 as an underdog. I mean, really. I mean, they should have been the favorites in that one, I think. And then Evil Geniuses against TSM. Short-term form, I think Evil Geniuses has looked a little bit better than TSM. I'm fine with the line the way that it was set. It's just you don't really feel like it was an underdog, like a true underdog.
Sure. Both
So-
of those games were like near coin flips in the odds anyway, so like claiming one side as the underdog is kind of a bullshit thing, but yippee-i-yo.
So I mean, for the LEC, if I could see Mad Lions and Misfits both winning. I think that'd be a fun DraftKings lineup to run out there. And then for the LCS, I think that Golden Guardians could definitely win. Otto puked while we were talking about Immortal, so they could win. FlyQuest not winning. Dignitas is not winning. And CLG is like a half. So maybe 4.5 is the line I would set.
Going under. I'd take under on 4.5 for sure.
Well, I guess we'll
I'd
get the
hammer
result of that
the
for
under.
Sunday. Hammer the under? Alright. Well, if
That's
that's
it.
all we got. I want to thank everyone for watching today. If you enjoyed the video and you've made it this long, I salute you. But do one last thing before you go. Like the video and be sure to subscribe to the Esports Department YouTube channel. I also want to thank Michael and Alan for joining me tonight. You can find Michael at League of Items on Twitter and Alan at Heffelda. You can find me at XGhostRider90. Give us all a follow, see what we're talking about League of Legends wise. And good luck on the slate. Let's go make some money.
Bye-bye.
All right.
How do you say bye-bye in German?
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Tschüss, tschüss.